Hey folks, Mr. Lackey here with one of our last butterfly assignments before we do the quiz. Before I talk about the assignment, I'm just going to share some fun facts with you guys. We'll talk about why I'm sharing these once we get to the assignment. So the fun facts, butterflies, who's in the yard? I want you guys to know so many people, including me last year, said, I don't know anything but one species. It's the monarch. Right? And if you don't have a bunch of flowers nearby or you don't live near a park, you might never really even see those. I want to talk about three butterflies that once you see them, you can't unsee them. They're genuinely everywhere, and you're going to be like, how did I not notice these before? Because that's how I feel about it. First one, the cabbage white. These things are truly everywhere. I think this top picture is maybe a slightly better one because the bottom one, I hardly ever even notice the little black on their wings. They're almost always flying, it seems like, and sometimes when they land, you only see that underside. So it mainly just looks white. These things are truly all over the place. If you walk across any field in the sun, like if you play a sport and you're outside, like playing soccer, or I play ultimate frisbee, anytime I play ultimate frisbee in the summer or the fall, cabbage whites are everywhere. They're also in yards all the time. If you or your family have a garden, you might hate cabbage whites. They're called cabbage white because they eat cabbage and its relatives. So if your family is trying to grow cabbage or kale or broccoli or cauliflower and you get all those tiny little green worms all over it, those are possibly, if they're solid green, they're the caterpillars for cabbage white. They're just in there eating all your stuff. They're not very big. So I think a lot of us, when we think butterflies, we think monarch size, and we forget the monarch's like the biggest butterfly or one of the biggest. Most of the butterflies in Ohio are pretty small. These guys are like that big, like maybe, yeah, I can't, that big. Here you go. It's like one of these erasers, like not much bigger than that. I used to just think they were moths, but they're not. They're butterflies, and they're a flash of white. You'll see them. I mean, if you start looking for them, truly, you'll see them everywhere. On that same note, the clouded and orange sulfur are found in almost all the same places. I see them all over the place, pretty much any field I walk through. I didn't really explain in there, clouded and orange sulfur. Some people are kind of still debating it. Are they two species? Are they one species? I just gave them to you as one. This top image shows a nice difference. The lighter yellow ones are called clouded and the orangier ones are called orange sulfur. But really, there's a lot that are kind of in between. So when you see it, you might just say, oh, that's a clouded sulfur. If it looks really orange, like I've seen only ever a couple that like look like they're sprinkled with Cheeto dust. And you're like, oh, I see. That's an orange one. That's an orange sulfur. Either way, you could just call it a sulfur. Same thing with these. I hardly ever even notice that dark pattern on their wings. I always notice the little flash of light yellow. They're about the same size as a cabbage white. And again, you really see them all over. I think truly, if you start looking for them, you'll be shocked that you didn't notice them before. Last one here is the pearl crescent. That's all I have to say about the pearl crescent. Just kidding. Let's go back to that slide. Can I do that? All right. Pearl crescent is it's another one that's all over the place. Honestly, it's even harder to notice. It might not be quite as common as those other two, but it is definitely smaller. I mean, I think other than maybe the eastern-tailed blue, it's like the smallest butterfly we study. It's so tiny. And the other thing I'll point out is like it looks really bright and colorful in that top image, but in the bottom here, that's a little bit more of the color you're going to see flying by. You're just going to see this little flash of like pale tan or brown. If you notice, if you like watch it land and walk up to it though, pearl crescents often do this thing where they'll fan their wings when they land, and you can get a glimpse of that orange and black on the back. And again, once you see it, you're going to definitely say like, oh, there it is. And then also, I mean, if you're anything like me, you're just gonna be like, oh, that is tiny. Like I never would have even registered like, oh, that's a butterfly, but it is. Okay, so those are just some fun facts about the most common butterflies you're gonna see. Like I said, once you see them, you'll never unsee them. Another fun thing I wanted to do today is just talk about two really commonly confused butterflies. If you've been playing the Quizlet match game or you've been learning these on Quizlet, the Eastern comma and the question mark, holy cow, are they similar? You probably have noticed how similar they are. I wanted to also say to you guys, careful just memorizing those pictures on Quizlet, right? Because I might give you different pictures when we do our test. It might not be the exact same one. So you should be able to recognize specific traits. When I look at these two, I'll be honest, like at first glance, it just looks like two different pictures of practically the same butterfly, maybe in different lighting, right? A couple of tricks for telling these things apart. The first one, if you're looking at the top of the wing like we are here, I've got this area highlighted. So notice here on the comma, so their names, the left side is comma, the right side is the question mark. So their names match the order you see them in here. The comma has these 3 dots in a row on the top of the wing, and the 4th dot is pretty faded out. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and then a faded out dot. Same thing over here, 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th dot is pretty faded out. If I look at that same area on a question mark, I go 1, 2, 3. The 4th dot is there solidly. If I go over here, I see the same thing. 1, 2, 3, solid 4th dot. I will say that's a little hard to tell, but it is pretty fail-proof. You know, like either way, if you can't tell based on anything else, look for those dots on the top wing there in the row and decide, do I see 3 and then a smudge or 4 straight dots? In real life, a better way to see this is if you could see the underside of the wing. So the underside of the wing, on the left side here, we have our comma, and this circle is showing there's a little mark under the wing that looks like a comma. That's it. That's why it's actually called the Eastern comma, is that it has this little mark. Now notice, it looks a lot less colorful on the underside of the wing. This picture on the right is actually a cool one that has, this is a question mark standing next to a comma. So up here you see that same comma. Down here, you see what they call the question mark. Gotta be honest, doesn't exactly look like a question mark, but I guess you kind of have a dot and then a swirl like you do with a question mark. Here the question mark looks mirror image and upside down, but you know, that's what the question mark looks like. And again, here in pink, there's your comma. The other thing I really wanted to point out for when you're looking for these in real life, because you're going to eventually see one and be like, whoa, what was that? Was that a question mark or a comma? One way to tell them apart, if you start seeing multiples over time, first I'm going to go ahead and outline. Notice the overall size of the comma compared to the overall size of the question mark. The question mark is much bigger. Now this is tough because all butterflies have a range of sizes, you know, and like the smallest question marks are probably about the same size as the biggest commas. But your average question mark and your average comma, the comma is going to be smaller than the question mark most of the time. So if you see one of these and you're like, that was pretty big, probably the question mark. If you see it and you're like, that's pretty small, probably the comma. Okay, so what I just did is I basically walked through 2 different versions of the assignment I'm going to be asking you guys to turn in. So in this assignment, I'm going to actually give you 3 different ways you can do it. First one, you can just explain 2 easily confused butterflies. You can't do the comma and the question mark. I just did that. You can't do it. You could do something like the spice bush versus the black swallowtail. They're pretty similar. You could compare monarchs versus viceroys. They're extremely similar. Or there's like a billion orange butterflies. The pearl crescent, the fritillary, the clouded sulfur, the red admiral, the painted or American lady. Maybe 2 of those really confuse you, or maybe more than 2, and you can explain how you can easily tell those apart. Another way you could do this is also just any 2. Maybe you're playing Quizlet and you keep mixing up 2 of them that I didn't mention there. Go ahead and for this project, try to differentiate between the 2 and then explain your differentiation, how you figured them apart. Now that's just one possible prompt for this project, explaining confusing critters. Here's 2 alternatives. The first alternative, just share some tips or memory tricks that you came up with for any 3 butterflies. They don't have to be easily confused. So you might be like, oh, the morning cloak, it has this thing, and that reminds me of this thing, and that's how I always remember it, the morning cloak. Whatever trick you have, that's fine. It doesn't have to be one you confuse with another one just because these are all new to you guys. So you're trying to learn all these, whether or not they're easily confused. Third version of this project you can do is you can just share 3 fun facts that you learned while researching these species. When I say researching these species, I don't just mean in the guidebook I shared with you. I mean maybe like go out, do a little more reading somewhere else, and actually share some more fun facts that you learned from somewhere else. So again, I put these in 3 different colors. There's 3 different ways you can do this project. You can either explain 2 that confuse you, you can share tips or tricks for any 3 butterflies, or you can just share 3 fun facts you learned about any 3 butterflies. I basically did this project twice in the video already, right? I shared 3 fun facts about the commonly seen butterflies. The fun facts were some things you might see about the cabbage white, the clouded sulfur, and the pearl crescent. And then I went over the comma and the question mark, so I did the confusing critter one too, right? For you, you only have to pick one of these 3 prompt types and explain it in your video. All right, a couple things then. So you might be saying like, well, how do I turn this in? There's a billion ways you can turn it in. Let's talk about them. You can make a Google Doc or a Google Slides, put images on there, and then put text boxes or just write explanations below and hand write out the whole thing. You can then upload them in the assignment, or in the assignment, you can just paste a link if you share it. It's a little easier if you upload it for me, but I'll figure it out. Another way that you can do this is you now know how to record things on Schoology. So you can just make an audio or video recording. Just press that microphone button and talk right into the camera and explain to me your answers, whether it's fun facts or commonly confused critters, whatever you want to do. If you want to try something fancy, I'm going to put a link for you guys to use WeVideo. WeVideo is how I make all the videos that you guys watch. The premium version is free for South students if you log in with your student account. Play around with it. Do this type of stuff I'm doing. You can put images right on the screen. What I normally do is I make a Google Slides presentation, and then I film myself and put my picture on the corner while I'm going through the presentation. You can play around and see if you want to do it that way. Don't have to use WeVideo. If you're already good at another program like iMovie or something like that, you can do that too. I should say with the Google Doc, some of you guys were really fantastic artists. If you want to upload images and draw over top of them or draw some of your own butterflies, go for it, as long as you're still fulfilling one of those prompts. Last thing I'm going to say here, a note from Kid President about copying. That's right, Kid President. Don't do it, please. When I talk about copying, here's what I mean. Please make this assignment in your own words. I understand you're about to be learning the things that you're sharing with me, but here's what I don't want. Don't just make a Google Doc where you just go to a website and copy and paste everything that you saw on a website, pictures and text, and paste them right in, right? And doesn't include any of your own words or sayings. Any words that you include in there, I want them to be your own words, words that you wrote, okay? Don't just pick, like, I'm okay if you include pictures as long as you include your own descriptions. Don't just take a screenshot of a web page, though, and dump it in there. That's not what I'm looking for. You might be sitting here like, listen, I copy all my assignments and none of my teachers ever catch me. You're wrong. You're really bad at cheating, all of you. It's so obvious when you cheat. And like sometimes your teachers have the energy to fail you and make you redo the project and call your mom. And sometimes we're just like so crushed by the weight of the meaningless of all of it that we just give you a D and you don't even care anyways, and we all just call it a day. Don't make me give you the 0 and redo the project. It's annoying and a pain, and this is not that hard. Thank you. Like I said, I'm happy that you're going to do the research online. I know that you're about to learn all these facts, but I want your own input in there too. A lot of the facts that I've shared with you guys, I also learned them online, but I put them back into my own words before I shared them back with you guys. Help synthesize the information in the brain. All right, that's it. It's everything I got. I believe in you. Go get them. We got that quiz coming up this week. It might be a good idea to do this project before the quiz because I think it'll help you out with, you know, the commonly confused critters out there. Good luck, folks. Bye.